Okay, so this is part 9 of the custom bed frame build, and this is the last video for this because it's done. But I wanted to go over a couple of things in case they weren't clear from the previous videos. The first is we moved the bed in, and it's working great so far. I like how stable it is. It doesn't creak or rattle or anything like that, like other bed frames that you would, bed frames you buy in the store. I mean, they're so cheap and chintzy and particle board this and particle board that. This is all solid. It's all glued and screwed together, and so far anyway, it's not moving. But it didn't fit through the door. So I did end up having to actually trim a little bit off of it, probably like 8 inches or so, give or take. I did measure the frame to make sure it would fit through the sliding door that's off of the master bedroom, but I overestimated how much we would be able to sort of manipulate the frame and angle it in the door, because dimensionally, if you put the frame in diagonally, it fit. But being able to get it in diagonally and lift it in the legs, and it just, if there was no deck off of our room and there was no roof, because the roof lining actually started to become a problem, in terms of being able to pull the frame up or down, then it may have been able to get in there. So anyway, what I ended up doing was I actually cut off the ears that the headboard was meant to attach to. If you look back through the previous videos, you'll know that the head of the bed had these ears that came out for the headboard. But anyway, the ears, since I had to cut them off, I had to come up with a different way of attaching it to the frame, and I just ended up making some corner brackets with some MDF to attach it, and that so far it's working fine. And it actually worked out in another way, because the dimensions of the frame were intended to be basically the exact dimensions of a king size mattress, so that the mattress and the frame would be flush with each other. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's because our mattress doesn't meet the sort of the nominal size of a king size mattress or what, but it was about an inch. The frame was about an inch longer or so than our mattress. So by cutting those ears off where the headboard was meant to attach, and it gave me the ability to sort of push the headboard forward a little bit and make up that gap. So it worked out. Another thing I want to mention really quickly is that on all 5 of the legs, I did put some anti-skid pads. Not because I'm worried. The frame probably has to weigh at least 100 pounds, if not more. It is heavy, mostly just to protect our floors. We have hard floors, so things do like to slide around, so that's part of it. I don't think that this would have slid around, but I put them on there anyway, just to protect the floors. And I just thought I'd mention it so that if you're doing a similar thing, I mean, if you've got carpet, you don't have to worry about it. But if you've got wood floors or any sort of hard floor, then something you probably want to consider is either felt pads. But felt pads may actually compound the issue of something sliding around. So these are actually grippy pads that grip the floor to keep everything in place. So on the nightlight, I think I mentioned anyway in one of the previous videos that the LEDs I used are just some cheap LED strips that I got off Amazon that supposedly have some 3M type adhesive on the back. I don't know if it's actually a 3M. They say it is, but who knows. Anyway, they're red LEDs. That's the only color they are. They don't change colors or anything like that. Ostensibly because I used red because it won't interfere with your night vision, and so far I don't think it's caused any problems. But they run off 12 volts, and the way I'm turning them on and off is based on the light level. So when it gets dark, they automatically come on. When the sun comes out or the lights are turned on or whatever, they automatically go off. And I'm using an AT-Tiny85 microcontroller to do that. If you've ever heard of or used an Arduino, it's basically the same thing. The programming, you can use the Arduino IDE to program them. You can, you use the same programming language. It's just as easy. The only difference is the AT-Tiny85 has a lot less memory and less pins, and they cost basically pennies. You can order them from SparkFun, Adafruit, DigiKey. The only caveats with it is, again, it's way less memory than a regular Arduino board, less pins, and there's no serial output. The other thing is that there's no USB interface built in, so you need to use a programmer. I use got it from SparkFun. It's the AVR Pocket Programmer, and they've got guides on SparkFun and how to hook it up and connect it and stuff, so you can program the AT-Tiny85. But for something like this, where you're just doing basically one thing, and I think I've got 4 inputs. So I've got the LDR, the light dependent resistor, 2 pots for sensitivity and brightness, and then the MOSFET output for the LEDs. It's a better way to go, because it would be a waste to even use an Arduino like a Pro Mini or anything. It would just be a waste. Another thing I want to touch on, because I didn't cover it in any of the previous videos, and it's not in the drawing, it was a last minute addition. My wife suggested adding a board, this board at the foot of the bed, and I'm glad she did, because it really finishes it off. It keeps, before there was there was just this void that went under the bed, but adding this board really finished it off. It makes it nice and I guess clean looking, and it helps keep the stuff from sliding under there, and keeps the cats out from under the bed and the dogs from under the bed and that sort of thing. So worked out really nicely. The last thing that I want to talk about is our dog Lincoln. I think it was in part 7 where I showed the making of a staircase that was meant to go at the foot of the bed. We don't normally let our dogs sleep in the bed with us at night. There's just not enough room. But when only one of us is in the bed, they're allowed to jump on. Lincoln, our Great Dane in particular, liked to be up there when my wife was in bed. Our old bed was high enough that Lincoln had trouble getting up on it. Our other 2 big dogs don't have an issue. So we knew that with the new frame being higher, Lincoln would probably not be able to get up on it. The staircase was made for him. Unfortunately, back in January, before the bed frame was finished, Lincoln passed away. And to say that we were devastated would be an understatement. I know that there are those that don't think much of dogs. I'm not one of those people. At least, not anymore. I was raised that animals, pets, dogs in particular, were meant to be bought, sold, traded, or dumped at one's whim. When they got annoying or became too much work, just dump them on someone else. Certainly they were not anything to care about. That's how I was raised. If you'd asked me before I met my wife if I'd ever suffer due to the loss of a dog, I'd have told you no. If it sounds corny, fine, but my wife, Sandy, taught me the opposite of how I was raised. When Lincoln died, the staircase was built but not finished. I avoided it for a bit, thought about what to do with it, then I decided to finish it and just to hang on to it. Maybe one of our other dogs will need it at some point. If you're looking for a dog, look at getting a rescue. Lincoln was a rescue. We got him when he was 9 months old and 130 pounds. For 5.5 years, he enriched our lives and the lives of everyone who met him. His previous owners, the ones we got him from, didn't want him anymore. He was too big. They were going to take him to the pound. My wife found out about him through a friend on Facebook. And before us, he had had 3 owners. I've spent some time trying to come up with a way to put into words how special Lincoln was. And I don't mean it in the cliche way. No, Lincoln was special. And if you'd have been able to meet him, you'd know what I mean. Words fail.